just getting set up for WGAN TV live at 5. I do have to copy and paste a link into the We Get Around Network forum. This will just take me a moment, but I can't really talk and walk at the same time. So I'm just going to go silent for a second here as I copy that link and I add it to the We Get Around Network forum. It's just take me a second. Okay, thanks for standing by. We're almost there. Okay, we'll make us live in the forum. We'll just go over to the forum just to double check that we're live. Okay, great. And Eric, we'll get started in 10 if that sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay. Excuse me. Me. Got something there. Okay. So in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Hi all, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Thursday, October 1st, 2020, and you're watching WGAN TV live at 5. We have a great show for you today. Our topic is Asteroom virtual staging. We're going to do a deep dive demo and a discussion. And our perfect guest for that is Asteroom co-founder, CEO Eric See. Eric, good to see you again.
Hey, Dan. Hey, everybody.
Thanks for being on the show again, Eric. I appreciate it. Eric, how about jumping into Asteroom virtual staging? Perhaps you could show us some before and some after examples.
Okay, sure. Let's see.
So if you want to share screen right at the bottom.
Yep, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. There. Okay.
While Eric's getting set up, I'll also just mention that later in the show, we're going to have 2 special offers to talk about. About the first Asteroom pay-per-tour bundle, free, and the first Asteroom 360 panorama virtually staged for free. And we'll talk about those 2 special offers later in the show. All right, Eric, looks like you have a very plain Jane Asteroom tour there.
That's right. Yeah. So it's a panorama. I just took it from one of our users tour, and I chose this one because it really doesn't. It's empty and doesn't look good. And we want to help this user virtually stage at home.
All right. So that's the before.
Or here's the after. So you can see the style is contemporary, and you can see that we added TV stand, and the bed, since this is a bedroom.
So you've only showed us the 180 degrees there. Is there something behind us too?
There's a plant and a chair.
Okay.
Drawer.
So that's awesome. I think that would be an example. If we didn't see the before, we wouldn't realize that every piece of furniture, the floor covering, carpet, and some of the items up on the wall is actually virtually staged.
Right.
Cool. All right. So you've showed us one example of a contemporary virtual staged Asteroom space.
Sure, a couple.
Other styles that are available?
Yep. So now I want to show you one that's modern. Give me a second, let me pull it up.
So it's probably helpful to know while Eric is setting up that National Association of Realtors in their surveys have found that vacant homes sell for less, are on the market for more days. So by virtually staging 360s, different rooms within a space, the real estate agent can help the homeowner get more for the listing, help sell the house faster. And Eric, you ready to show us your next one? Okay, great.
So I chose this one because it's furnished, right? So the last one that we show, it was empty. And this one, we want to demonstrate that we can stage a home that is currently furnished. So that's it before, and this is after. So you can see we remove the old junky ugly furniture. We replace them with complete new sets.
That's
And
amazing. Let's take a look at that before again for the living room.
so it's not very attractive. And you can tell that someone's currently living in there. And this is their furniture. But then we can replace them with shinier traditional furniture.
Okay. So what style would you call that? Is that traditional? Is that modern?
This is traditional.
Traditional. Okay.
Traditional. Yeah. So I can show you a couple more. That's contemporary and modern. And
yeah, that would be great. So, I pointed out that houses listings that get virtually staged are going to help get more money for the listing, help get the listing sold faster, according to National Association of Realtors. I think what I would point out there is that those are the talking points for the real estate agent to the homeowner to get the listing. So really, when we, as a service provider, you're using the virtual staging to help the agent get the listing. That's the key selling point when you're having a conversation about helping the agent win the listing. Okay, so we're looking at the before. This one has furniture in it already.
Yep. This one is industrial, and this one has furniture in there. The furniture doesn't look too bad, but again, if you want to bring a different feel of the home, you can do more aggressive style. In this one, we did it with a style called industrial. So you can see using some elements. They are very bold, like this line over there, and very modern couches with artwork in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is industrial, one of the 4 kinds that we offer initially.
Okay.
Let's see what else I can, maybe I should do one more. Okay, so this one, I'm gonna close them up so they don't use so they don't use too much memory space. So this one is the before, and it's empty, and this one, the style is farmhouse. So you give the cozy feeling to the home. Very popular in rural style homes. Okay, so before again.
I feel like I'm going to the eye doctor. Better or worse? Better or worse?
Right. Do you want to see more?
Yeah, I'd love to keep seeing some examples. That would be great.
Okay. So, so there were 2. I did 2 that were sent. I got a panorama from 2 users. Oh, I think one it was just Jeff. He sent me a bunch of panoramas, and I picked 2 of them. and
Okay, great. So let's take a look at this. This is from a member of the We Get Around Network Forum community in North Idaho and Eastern Washington. A Matterport service provider is Capture NW photographer Jeff Nietzsche. Jeff is active in the We Get Around forum. His WGAN forum member name, while you're setting up, Eric, is at LILNITSCH, Lil Niche. So that's Jeff Nietzsche. Let's take a look at what you got for one of his. In fact, we posted in the We Get Around Network forum that we were specifically looking for messy house makeovers. And Jeff had shot some tours with Matterport. And I think, Eric, what you're showing is you've exported some of the, I'm not seeing the right listing.
Yeah, give me a second here. I am having an issue finding it. There's too many tabs open, but perhaps we can move on to.
Do you want to close that software update? Maybe that's what's holding you up from.
Yeah. So go ahead. We can talk about the next topic, and I'll come back and show it.
Okay, so we'll had Eric's demo showed up, I think what you would have seen is that Jeff had shot in fact, two super messy houses. They were the homeowner certainly made no effort at all to clean up the trash throughout the entire house. So if Eric is not able to bring that up to demo it, we'll post it in the We Get Around Network forum so that you can see the before, what the tour looked like, and then so you can see, here it is. So Eric is calling up one of two Jeff's tours. So
this one is a cabin in the mountain, essentially, and it was shot on the Matterport camera, so you can see the definition is really good.
Yeah, so this is an interesting point, is that even if you've already shot the tour using a Matterport camera, you can still export your 360 photospheres and then import them into the Astroom platform using the Astroom desktop editor, and then have the tour created as with a 3D dollhouse. And then be able to go to the next step of virtual staging. So not the worst looking house. I think there was one that really was over the top in terms of mess, but is this one Jeff's or is this someone else's?
This is Jeff's. Both of them Jeff's.
Okay.
So you can see we did a complete makeover. So all the furniture are gone, and they were being replaced by a nicely looking, very cozy, mountain style furniture that makes the home makes your room looks just much better, not messy.
Way better. Did you stage the upstairs office in this one?
No, but I staged the other one of the other tours. So
could we take a look at the other one? The other house really is a train wreck. That's this one here. This is like, so, you almost think, oh, I've showed up to photograph this. Maybe I should just double check with the real estate agent to say, hey, you sure you want me to shoot this? But it turned out, I think from what Jeff had shared with me, is that really all they wanted to do was enable the measurements function so that prospective buyers could understand what was to do the estimating on a renovation. So that was why they still went forward with doing this particular tour. Okay, so how about some Astroom virtual staging magic?
Yep. So it was a complete makeover, and we did not just staging, like we did a bunch of stuff, including basically render the whole home, like complete renovation of the home.
So that's not of the 360 we were just looking at, though.
It is.
I love that you have the toggle in the bottom right corner, because you really need to show this. Again, this is like so unbelievable over the top. So that's the before.
That's that.
And that's the after. That's amazing. So in addition to putting in the furniture, you change the floor covering, you change the wall covering, I think I see lights that have been installed in the ceiling.
Right. Yep. That's right. Yeah. So it's completely makeover. It's a renovation then rather than staging.
Yeah, really super. That's really awesome. Eric, please do share those tours with us so that we can post them to the We Get Around Network forum.
Will do.
Okay. Awesome. So we looked at, let's take it off screen share if you may. Okay. So I'm ready to order. What's the next step? How do I actually place an order?
Yeah. So you can order on the web editor, or you can order on your Astrum app. So I can demo. Do you want me to demo how to order?
Yes, please. That would be great.
Let me demo on how to order on the web portal.
Okay.
So again, there are two. You can either access your tours.
So I think at the moment you're showing your whole desktop. Is it possible just to close out or maybe resize that, and we'll take a look at just the screen, just the Astrum desktop editor.
Okay. That.
Yep, great.
So this is my Astrum desktop editor. So you can see that if you have a chair icon, that means that your tour has staging. So let me pick one that doesn't have one, like this one. In New York, and this tour was actually featured on. This tour was actually featured on one Brick Underground, which is a New York-based magazine, real estate magazine. So they used this tour, and so this was used by the brokerage called, I can't remember the name, but it says it's paid by a broker because it's set up in a way that the brokerage pays for it. So you will not see that, but that's just once you select the service and you click next step.
Okay, so you're going to select an individual. So here are all the 360s.
Yep.
That are for this tour. You're going to pick. Let's say you wanted to pick one of those.
That's right.
So you're going to go pick. Excuse me.
You can pick one. You can pick multiple.
Okay.
So, pick a living area. So usually people stage a living room.
All right. So you went a little bit fast for me, Eric. There was if you could just go back for a second.
Okay, I'll start from the beginning again.
Okay. So we're in the Astrum desktop editor. You've selected one of the tours that's already been created, already has a 3D dollhouse.
Yep.
Okay. Now you're going into services. You're checking the box up top. It's pulled up services that are available, such as 3D staging and 2D floor plans. And at this point, because this tour doesn't yet have floor plans, nor does it have 3D staging, so you see those two options. So you're going to select, let's say you just select 3D staging.
That's right.
Okay.
Next.
Then you're going to hit next. Got it. Now it's displaying all the 360s that are available to be virtually staged.
Right. You can select one, you can select multiple.
Okay. So let's say we pick maybe the living room, the large bedroom, and the kitchen. How's that?
Yeah, that works.
Because I think you'd probably say those are probably the three spaces that if someone was that staging was really going to help a lot, those are probably the three rooms in the house.
Right. So with kitchen, we usually don't recommend it because we can't really do much to it. We can do virtual renovations to take down the entire kitchen and build a new one. But I think MLS does not allow that. MLS,
yeah. So do you want to talk, because you mentioned something new here, rendering versus,
rendering versus staging.
Yeah. So let's just stay with 3D staging. Okay. and you've picked the rooms that you wanted to do. I see that you have 4 styles: contemporary, industrial, farmhouse, and traditional.
That's
Okay.
right.
And we'll talk about pricing later, I guess, because we're in your account. Everything you order is for free. I'd like to get one of those accounts, please. But we'll talk about pricing later. Presumably, in my account, if I went to actually now place the order, it would present a price. I would pay for it with my credit card and initiate the order.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. So did you want to continue that or stop at that point?
It's just going to give you the estimated turnaround time, and it's going to give you a price. When you submit order, it's going to ask you to put in your credit card.
Okay, so let's come out of that. Maybe we go to the desktop editor, see how, oh, we're in the desktop editor. Maybe we can go to mobile and see how that works on your smartphone. Eric, it said 2-day turnaround. Is that 2 business days or 2-day turnaround?
2 business days. But Saturday counted as 1 business day.
So is the process 6 days a week?
Yes, correct.
So is Saturday
Business day.
sorry?
Saturday is considered a business day.
Saturday is considered a business day. Okay. So if you order on a Friday, you're going to get it on Tuesday.
Friday, you get it on Monday. Saturday, Monday evening.
So if you order it on Monday, you're going to get it on Wednesday.
That's right. Yep.
Order on Wednesday, you're going to get it on Friday.
That's right.
Okay. But if you order on Friday, you won't get it on Sunday. That's not a business day. You'll get it on Monday.
That's right.
Okay, great. All right, so you're within the Ask the Room app. You're now looking at models, Ask the Room models within the Ask the Room app.
Yep. So this is a test account. And go in and again click services in the top right corner. I will first see all the panoramas. They are in this project. And click services. And then Dollhouse is one of the options, enhancement. And 3D staging.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we're seeing some pricing there. I would say ignore that pricing because Eric has special pricing for We Get Around Network Forum members, and we'll talk about pricing a little bit later in the show, as well as those 2 special free offers for you. Okay, so let's take the 3D staging. Now, it's displaying all the 360s within the model.
That's right. Yep.
And I imagine in a similar fashion, you're going to check in the top right which ones you want for virtual staging.
Yep.
Okay. Again, as a We Get Around Network Forum member, WGANforum.com, free to join the forum. There's special pricing for you, so sit tight until we get to the pricing for you. So, right. So again, now you get to pick which style that you want.
That's right. And then it's the same process. It tells you 2 business days, and you just click submit order.
Okay, cool. So Eric, if I wanted to see examples of the 4 different styles, is that on your website? Is that on asktheroom.com today?
Yeah, we have a page. We have a 3D staging page. Let's see if I can bring up.
All right, so you're going to asktheroom.com, going over to services, selecting 3D staging. Yep. Excuse me.
So it gives you the 4 styles, but those are just the same as the style that you see in the app. We don't, if you want to see a 360, a style 360, we'll include those links in this page later. But right now we only have 2D stills.
Okay, so you can see a 2D snapshot, but you will add a link to each of those 4. So yep. today is Thursday, October 1, 2020. What's your best guess on when that'll be added?
In a couple of days.
Okay.
Yeah, so you
So that's great. So you'll actually be able to go, just as Eric has been showing some tours, you'll be able to
Yeah.
actually go through some tours a little bit more detailed.
right. Like,
Great. So if you can come off screen share, that would be great.
Okay.
Good. Should I be doing the stage? So I have a totally empty house.
mhm.
Should I be staging every one of the 360s that have been shot of that house?
Yeah. So now we get into like, what is the ROI for staging a home, right? So for We Get Around members, the cost for staging a room, a 360 panorama is $49.99, so $50. So if you have 15 panoramas, then it'll be $750, right? So you want to pick and choose to see like what is the best panoramas for you to stage to get the most ROI. And so what we see that most of our users only stage 1 to 3 rooms. So their first pick is the living room because it's what buyers tend to spend the most time in the tour, and the master bed, and usually the living room as well. So we rarely see. Sometimes we see people at stage entrance, but we rarely see people stage a room out of those 4.
Okay. Could you repeat those rooms?
Living room, dining room, entrance, and master bed.
Interesting. Okay, not the kitchen. I'm thinking the kitchen.
And the kitchen.
Not the kitchen, because unless you're
It's
really
not allowed. That's what we talked just now. It's the I believe you can stage a room if you have to specify that this is a stage panorama. And I do not believe that, even though we are capable of doing virtual renovations, but I do not believe MLS will allow that because it's deceiving.
Yeah. So let's put that in for a different day to talk about trying to think, what's the word that you used for that? Renderings. So renderings, different topic for a different day. Today we're talking about virtual staging, where we're not structurally changing the space. We're adding furniture. We're adding things that would be logical that a homeowner could just pick up and take with them or bring in and put in the space. So no physical structural changes,
Right.
which is, while it's certainly possible to do that, that's not what we're talking about today when we talk about virtual staging.
That's right. Even though we can do that with the basement one that I just showed you.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I think it's probably helpful to talk about, how a WGA Inforum member gets special pricing anyway to begin with. So it's probably helpful, Eric, if you could talk about what's included in an Ask the Room pay per tour bundle.
Mm-hmm.
How much does that cost? And then we'll talk about the special free offer. So Ask the Room pay per tour bundle includes the following.
Yep, includes the following. $49.99 includes a 3D dollhouse, includes a 2D floor plan with dimension, with or without dimensions, up to you. Image enhancement for all your panoramas, up to 30 panoramas. So if your tour has 31 panorama, for every additional panorama after the first 30 is $1.50, so 1.5. So if you have 35, it will be 30 plus 5 times 1.5, which is 7.5. So it'd be $37.5. Sorry, $57.5 for the tour.
Now I'm totally lost. If it's 30 up to 30 panoramas,
it's $50.
$49.99, $49.99, 50, rounded it up to 50. And if I have one additional panorama
After the first 30, it's
after the
one
first 30, it's $1.50.
$1.50. Yep,
So then my cost would really be $49.99 plus
$1.50.
$1.50,
Yep,
which would be, call it 51.49.
51.49.
Okay,
Yeah,
good. How much hosting is included?
180 days.
Okay, 6 months of hosting. And and then I think this next point is super important because Astroom actually assembles the tour.
Correct.
Right. Eric, I know you just assume, well, of course, we assemble the tour. That's what we do. But there, of the 150 virtual tour platform software choices today, of the vast majority do not assemble the tour for you. You literally have to assemble the tour. And I think that's a super valuable thing to think about as a service provider, is having Astroom actually create the tour for you. So, take your 15 minutes, go shoot the tour. Up to 3,000 square feet is typically about 15 minutes. And then Astroom's doing the rest of the work for you. So assembling the tour, creating the dollhouse, doing the image enhancement, all the 360s, creating the floor plans, labeling the names of the rooms, and hosting it for 6 months. If I want more than 6 months of hosting,
$9.99 for another 6 months.
$9.99 for another 6 months. So I think this is like super important, is to realize that there's no hosting charge. So you're not with Astroom, no subscription, not locked into any commitment, which really puts puts the burden on you, Astroom, to make sure that you're always surprising, delighting clients so that they want to keep coming back. So I think one of the great things about the $49.99, Eric, is that if you're a Matterport service provider and you're locked into a subscription, you probably are not looking to add another subscription. So it's super easy to test and try, particularly if you have a listing that's, say, less than $300,000, where the economics perhaps of shooting Matterport may not be worth your time versus what you could possibly charge. I think you and I have been having some conversations offline about, if you're shooting 2D still photography, you really should be getting 100% of the houses that you shoot 2D to also want to have a 24/7 open house virtual tour. And if you can't price the add-on of Matterport within a $300,000 listing, the economics don't work. With Astroom, since the total cost is $50, you could still probably charge $149 and still be able to offer that as an add-on in order to get to 100% of your clients who you're doing 2D photography now also having the open house virtual tour. And me personally, even though I would say charge separately as an add-on for the floor plans, even though the floor plans is included in Astroom's pricing, doesn't mean you can't charge. And I would personally suggest a good starting point might be $49 a floor. So if you can offer, as a still photographer, Astroom 24/7 open house virtual tour, something that costs you $50, and get an add-on price of $149, that's pretty cool. And then another add-on of floor plans, and let's assume you can get at least $49, that could be adding $200 to a shoot that you might only be getting, let's say, $150 or $180. So you're essentially doubling your income. And I've gone a little bit fast through this math and I've made a lot of assumptions, but tomorrow, Friday, October 2nd, 2020, I will be publishing in the We Get Around Network forum a calculator to show photographers how they can double their revenue by using Ask the Room as an add-on to your 2D photography, by using Ask the Room floor plans as an add-on. And now we have a third add-on, which may not be 100% of your listings, but certainly for the ones that are empty, it certainly becomes obvious to offer virtual staging. And then there are spaces that are already furnished, but already a train wreck where it makes sense to offer virtual staging. So Eric, I promised at the top of the show that we had two special offers. The first is the first Ask the Room paper tour bundle.
Complimentary, yep. So the first Ask the Room paper tour bundle, when you type in the coupon code, we get around Ask the Room, which you can find in a banner on top of the We Get Around.
Yeah, in fact, what I think what I would take people to is if to get both special offers, wgan.info/Ask the Room. And you will find the two offers. The first one for We Get Around Network forum members is to get the first Ask the Room paper tour bundle. What we've been talking about is $49.99 to get your first one free. Makes it super easy. If you're a Matterport service provider, you can use your existing Matterport Pro 2, Pro 1, Pro 2 Lite camera, or you can certainly use Ricoh Theta Z1, Ricoh Theta V, Ricoh Theta 2SC, a Insta360 One X, Insta360, and virtually any 360 camera. So that's pretty cool. And then Eric, We Get Around Network has our own offer to add in addition. So the second offer is to get your first Ask the Room 360 panorama virtually staged for free. So not the entire tour, but your first one 360 within a tour. There are some restrictions. You need to be a Matterport service provider. You need to be a We Get Around Network forum member. This offer is for October 2020, and it's limited. The second offer is limited to the first 50 We Get Around Network forum members to submit the rebate form to receive this. So you would simply go place your order as you normally would for your Ask the Room paper tour bundle, whether you get your first one free or you're paying $49.99, and then do your virtual staging of Ask the Room. You still pay Ask the Room just as you normally would. It's just that you're going to submit your bill along with a recent bill from your Matterport monthly or annual plan. And We Get Around Network will reimburse you via PayPal for your first Ask the Room 360 panorama. So we'll reimburse you $49.99. So all the information that I've just said, that's a big mouthful, is available at wgan.info/Ask the Room. And you'll see the links to the two offers that we just discussed. The first one that Ask the Room is offering, first Ask the Room paper tour bundle free. And then the one We Get Around Network is offering, first Ask the Room 360 panorama virtually staged for free via WGAN rebate form, which is at that link in the forum. Eric, what else should we talk about in terms of Ask the Room virtual staging?
Do you want to talk about Ask the Room versus competitors virtual staging?
Sure.
So there are the most staging company, of course, is Fox Brownie, and they are famous for 2D still staging, and they have also started doing 360 staging as well. And I believe their price is $62 or $63 for 360 photos. And our price is about, for a We Get Around member, is $50. So it's about $13 cheaper. At the same time, I think the quality is pretty even. And if anything, ours is probably slightly better, although they offer 1, 2 more choices than us. And the reason is we want to really have our stager really work on the 4 styles and make sure they look great. And our customers are happy before we expand to other styles.
It's interesting that you mentioned, a competitor, because frankly, I don't see them as a competitor. And the reason I say that is since Ask the Room is an open platform, that means photographers have a choice of which company to use for virtual staging. So if you want to use Ask the Room, super easy, super fast. Order it through the app, the Ask the Room app, iOS or Android, or order it through Ask the Room Desktop Editor. Or download your 360 from your Ask the Room tour, or if you already have your 360, send it off to a third-party company because you want a different style, for whatever reason, you can do virtual staging with any other company, and then just import that 360 back into your tour.
That's right. Yeah. One extra step, but yeah, that's entirely correct.
Yeah, that's right. So I think what part of what you're trying to do is make it super convenient, because you can, just like you can order in app whatever optional extras that you'll be offering. Now, it turns out using the Ask the Room Pay Per Tour bundle, the 3D dollhouse is included, the assembly of the tour, the floor plans. I would say the only thing presently that is not in, and also included, is the 360 image enhancement. The only thing that's not included is virtual staging. So it just makes it super easy, as you showed, to go into the app or the desktop editor to order the virtual staging, pay for it right there, boom, get it back in 2 days, and you're done. I thought it might be helpful. I mentioned some statistics from NAR. I just thought I'd read a couple. Maybe you might have some comments on them. According to a 2019 National Association of Realtors home staging profile report, 17% of sellers' agents said that staging increased the dollar value of a home between 6 and 10%. This same study also, again, talked about selling vacant homes sell for less, vacant homes stay on the market longer. Eric, do you have any comments about these?
Yeah, I do actually. So I'm from Taiwan. When I first moved to the U.S. during high school, I moved to the San Francisco Bay Area, and I've been here, except I was in Chicago for college. But most of my time in the U.S. was spent in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I always thought in my since I was little, I bought like a couple homes and sold a couple homes too. I always thought that staging is just part of the home selling, because every home in San Francisco has always been staged. That every open house I went to, I would say if not 100%, like 95% of the homes I went to were staged. So I always thought staging was inexpensive. Staging was part of the home selling process. Until I started working in the real estate industry, I realized most of the people don't stage their home. The agent don't have the budget to stage their home, and it costs thousands of dollars. Like I think $1,500 just to design initial move, and after every month after that is another like thousands for rental. If a home stays on market for 3-4 months, the bill could go up to $5,000. So I was shocked, and that was also part of the motivation why I really want to make staging part of Ask the Room, because I have been, as a consumer, I have been in homes that are staged, and I just feel much more appeal by the home and to make an offer. So, and staging has been practiced in San Francisco Bay Area because because of the high prices and high commission. And agents here know that it's proven that if the home stage is selling for a better price. So I think 3D staging for a fraction of the cost, even though $50 is not like $10, not super expensive like Starbucks coffee, but it's still relatively compared to how much real life staging will cost, is 1/10, 100, 1% of how much it would cost normally compared to real life staging. So I'm excited because this with Astrum, it can be offered. Staging can be offered in areas outside of California and New York.
So, so I'm hearing three things, because I want to just kind of put an exclamation mark in three things you talked about. The first is physical staging, that before virtual staging even existed, agents are spending a ton of money to bring in a stager, to bring in real furniture, and it costs a lot of money to do that. So as a service provider, if you're talking to an agent that is bringing in real staging to stage a space, then you may be able to still pay your $50 per 360, mark it up probably at least 3 times. So now you went from 50 plus 50 plus 50, 150 times 3, $450. That agent may be spending $5,000 for something that's going to cost your client less than $500. So in that example, for 1/10 the cost, your agent can be happy. Presumably that staging money is either being saved by the agent, money coming out of the agent's pocket or out of the homeowner's pocket, or both, however that agent has done the deal. And it's saving a lot of money, again, for the agent or client or both. At the same time, it's giving the photographer an opportunity to earn 150 minus 450 is $300 for something that took about 2 seconds using the app to order it. So, always great to leverage other people's time, in this case, leverage Astrum's time. All you're doing is placing the order through the app. You have no other work to do. It's magically inserted back into the tour. You get an email that it's been done. That's huge. That is really quite amazing. The second thing I heard is a person who's interested in buying a place through your experience of living in Taiwan and looking at real estate in the United States. And then I think, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And then the third is the agent winning the listing. So what I would just, again, since we're a community, We Get Around Network Forum community is of service providers. Your messaging to the real estate agent always needs to be about winning the next listing. And virtual staging becomes obvious, particularly when a listing is empty, the furniture's gone, the homeowner's already moved out. So that's obvious. And then I think that knowing that Astrum can actually virtually stage a space that has existing furniture, I don't believe that's always obvious to that's always doable necessarily by third-party companies. Sometimes you have to shoot the space empty. I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive if you're using Matterport to have staging done, you need to shoot an empty listing. It can't have existing furniture. So I think that's something to keep in mind. With Astrum, even with furniture, it can still be virtually staged. And so, Eric, I just think that the point I'd like to make there is for the photographer thinking about the real estate agent is keep the messaging on point, as virtual staging can help you win the listing. And that's because, then to speak from the consumer standpoint, because the seller of the home wants to get the most offers for the most money with the least amount of hassle, least amount of stress. And I would say, since we are in the midst of COVID, it's particularly important where homeowners don't want people coming to their house bringing their germs, potentially the virus, and people who are looking for homes don't necessarily want to go look at a million homes because they don't want to pick up somebody else's potential COVID-19 germs. So from the homeowner's perspective, hearing from the agent that their house can be virtually staged may be the difference between the agent winning the listing and losing the listing. I think the ancillary benefit is the person who's the prospective buyer of the house, but they're not the ones who are spending the money. The client, the agent is spending the money with the photographer, and the homeowner is giving the agent the opportunity to sell the house. So I think that probably covers a little bit. I want to just revisit this point, Eric, about virtual staging of just, you can order virtual staging for just one 360 or two or three. And that may seem obvious to you. Well, of course, that's all you're going to virtual stage. You're just going to do some important spaces as you walk into the house, the living room, the bedroom. Maybe there's a bonus room. I want to say, if you're going to do virtual staging of a Matterport tour, there are a couple of third-party service providers that do virtual staging of Matterport, but I'm going to guess, I could be wrong. Somebody post in the forum, let me know. Is the expectation is that you're going to need to do virtual staging of the entire house. Otherwise, because there's probably a lot of hand-holding in the process of ordering, unlike Asteroom, which is kind of automated the ordering process, simplified it. And so you may not, if you have a Matterport tour, you may not be able to get it virtually staged with just a couple of 360s. So all of a sudden you may be looking at an expense that maybe only makes sense if you're talking to the property management company for a multifamily community. And Eric, I know one of the things that we've talked about is that if you do have a Matterport tour, it's super easy to export the 360s from Matterport and import them into Asteroom using the Asteroom desktop editor. In one of my tours that we get around Atlanta, shot a 3-story townhome. It took us 73 individual 360s, and I sent that off to Eric, and Eric and his team came back and said, hey, that house was 73 scans. It only took us 20 of the 360s to create the tour. I mentioned that because Eric, you mentioned about the bundle includes up to 30. So that was a really big townhouse. I'm going to guess it was, it might have been 4,000 square feet, maybe a little bigger. Do you happen to recall how many square feet?
I don't recall, but it was a 3-story, right? I think it was a 4-bedroom plus 1 study. So it was big. Yeah. And
two outdoor terraces, 3 if you include the entrance that we had some 360s. So in less than 20 360 panoramas, Eric was able to, Asteroom was able to tell the story of that listing. So I just point that out to say, hey, you're a Matterport service provider. You thought the virtual staging was interesting. Your client's having you shoot it with Matterport, but you have an interest in virtual staging. There may be an appropriate export the 360s from Matterport, import it into Asteroom. And once that tour is created along with the dollhouse, then you have a you can order virtual staging. Eric, what question haven't I asked you about Astroom virtual staging that we should discuss?
You haven't asked me if we're gonna do 2D staging. It's being asked all the time. We will do that eventually. We're a 3D tour first company, but just so that we can be a one-stop shop, and when agents want the 3D staging to match with 2D staging, we'll be offering 2D staging matching to the 360 staging.
Now I'm totally confused because I believe that Astroom actually offers 2D staging because you can export, you can take snapshots of,
Yeah,
you can
right.
do 2D
Yeah.
snapshots of the 360s.
Right, but those aren't the real DSLR still staging, right? Like those are just 3D stage snapshot of 3D staging.
Well, for the majority of us, that may be totally fine. So again, just to amplify this point, is after the 360 tour is created, you can take snapshots, 2D snapshots within the 360s, including if it's already been virtually staged. So you want 2D pictures of virtual staging, you can still do that with Astroom.
That's right. Yeah.
What other question?
Not right. Yeah, not right now. In the near future.
Okay. In case you need magazine quality
Right. Yeah.
virtual staging. Eric, other questions I haven't asked you that I should ask?
Oh no, that's about it.
Okay. Awesome. Eric, thanks for being a guest on the show.
Cool. Oh, one little thing is the before after view. Right. You can see that the one I used for demo purpose, the before and after. Eventually, we'll incorporate that into the tour as well. So you will have a 360 tour. If you stage them, then you will get the before and after view for that particular panel. And that is when we think the rendering will be put in place. Because if you have a before and after of the rendering, then I don't think MLS or buyer would think that they are not real, right? Because you can see what it's actually today.
I think, for $50 times 3, $150. I think personally, I think it's the deal of the century, and it's super easy to order. So you just walk through the house and it just changes from this to that.
Yeah. But I'm talking about the view, the before after view.
The before and after button view that you were showing us. So Eric, again, thanks for being on the show. Our guest today has been Eric See, co-founder and CEO of Astroom. Our entire show today was Astroom Virtual Staging. We did a previous show together, Astroom Desktop Editor. And then the show before that, we did an intro to Astroom, all the features of Astroom on the front end and then on the back end. So 3 great shows. Like the 2 previous shows, we will post today's episode to the We Get Around Network forum by tomorrow, Friday, October 2nd, 2020. If you go into the We Get Around Network forum, there's been a lot written on this topic. Look for the tags, search Astroom. You can pull up all that copy. And again, our special offer for the first Astroom Paper Tour Bundle free and the first Astroom 360 Panorama virtually staged for free, go to wgan.info/Astroom, or you'll find everything in the We Get Around Network forum, wganforum.com. And Eric, thanks again for being a guest on the show. You've been watching WGAN TV live at 5.